Alright, folks, that might be it. Oh, that's going to be it for them. There's not going to be any way for them to comfortably recover here, as the entire field gets the pump and we swing for home. That is massive. Oh, and hello and welcome to the Florida Men Gaming. I am Furion, and today we will be playing Magic: The Gathering Arena. This season we are looking to make our way from Bronze to Mythic and have some fun along the way. But before we get started, I would like to ask you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers and would love to have you along for the journey. For today's deck, we are playing a mono green aggro deck that is built around dropping counters and trampling home. For this deck, we are going to be doing a number of interesting things. We are playing a lower land count, 22 total forests, and we're building in with a lot of ramp. This is just going to be a mono green ramp to bombs. So for ramping, we have 4 copies of the Jaspera Sentinel, 1/2 with reach. It allows you to tap up to 1 additional creature on your board to give you 1 mana of any color. 3 copies of the Reclusive Taxidermist, a 1 in a green 1/2 that gives you the ability to add 1 mana of any color. Now, on top of that, it gets 3/2 additional if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard. We have 3 copies of the Sculptor of Winter, a 1 in a green card, which allows you to tap this card and then untap any snowland. So you can tap the snowland for its mana, untap it, and you are now in a better position. And 3 copies of the Weaver of Blossoms. This is not a card that is in common use, but as a tap for mana card that plays along into the Daybound Nightbound cycle, adding 1 mana of any color on the Daybound side and 2 of any color on the Nightbound is a huge benefit to what we're trying to accomplish. For early game disruption and pressure, we have 3 copies of the Tenacious Pup, the 1 green mana alchemy monster that sits there and makes the rest of your board feel good. This card, of course, enters the battlefield giving you 1 life, and then when you cast your next creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter, trample counter, and vigilance counter on it. This pairs incredibly well with the Packsong Pup. Packsong Pup enters the battlefield and at the beginning of combat on each turn gets a +1/+1 counter if you control any other wolves or werewolves. When this card dies, you gain life equal to its power. In addition to the Packsong Pup, we are going to be running 4 copies of the Howlpack Piper. This little cheater has become one of my favorite cards in the entire Crimson Vow set, as when this card enters the battlefield, if it is on the Daybound side, you can pay 1 in a green to put a creature card from our hand onto the battlefield. If it's a wolf or werewolf, you untap the Howlpack Piper. When it flips to Nightbound, this card will allow you to draw a creature card from among the top 6 cards of your library, which will allow you to fix your hand and get yourself into a very good position. Lost where I was for a moment, folks. Had to pause the recording for a second. So, Howlpack Piper. Great card to get us along to where we're trying to go with this deck. We're pairing it with the Master Symmetrist. Now this card is an interesting card, doesn't see a lot of play, but for 2 and 2 green, it has reach. It is a 4/4, and whenever a creature you control with power equal to its toughness attacks, it gains trample until the end of turn. That is massive. This card will allow us to give big targets the ability to swing home. That set of targets includes 4 copies of the Avabruck Caretaker. This card is a ton of fun to use. It is not one that finds a lot of common use because it is such a high cost card, but it is a hexproof 4/4 for 6 that at the beginning of combat on your turn you put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control. On the Nightbound side, other permanents you control have hexproof, and by permanents that means all permanents, enchantments, artifacts, lands, creatures. Everything gets hexproof. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, including the Avabruck Caretaker. To take advantage of this +1/+1 engine, we are pairing it with 3 copies of Vorinclex, the Monstrous Raider. This is a legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. It has trample and haste, and if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. If an opponent would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, they put half that many. So it keeps other decks from spiraling out, and we are able to spiral out in a disgusting fashion. This card is terrifying, and trust me when I say it, if it resolves with the Avabruck, they are in trouble. The only other card of note in this deck is, of course, Blizzard Brawl. We're using that for just some mid-game and early-game removal to help keep the board state set in such a way that we can make it to our end-game bombs. And with that, we are excited to see you in the gameplay. Alright, we have an opponent. Let's see what ends up happening here. This is an interesting opening hand, not one I think I'm going to keep. You know what? We are going to keep it. I'm a little hesitant, but we'll see what happens. We'll have our ramp on 2 and our reset on 3. Actually, with that Reclusive Taxidermist coming in, we have another ramp spell. So that could allow us to get the Piper down sooner rather than later. Opponent showing green-white, so we will see if they're going with the Cleric's variation or what they're doing here. Well, fortunately for us, this doesn't necessarily affect us having the Thalia on the board, as we still have the ability to hit the Thalia. No need to make life more difficult than it ought to be. Selesnya, that's the green-white color pattern. Branchloft, Bolterloft, still holding true to their color palette here. Alright. Go ahead and play the Howlpack Piper. And the Sculptor of Winter. Just empty our hand here and hope to draw into some of our bombs. That is the one downside to this deck. You do need to have your bombs ready and available. Uh-oh, Brutal Cathar coming down. There goes our Piper. But that's okay. With the Sculptor of Winter on deck, we are ready to deal with that card and get our Piper right back. Go ahead and play down another Taxidermist. And we are back where we were. Might as well swing in. At this point, not really losing anything for not. Opponent now up to 4 mana. It looks like they're playing some kind of green-white aggro, but all I've seen so far are white spells. I wonder if they're just splashing green. Well, no, that's the hallmark that we were looking for, a life gain deck. So do they have the elf? Double green showing. Foretell. This could be a Doomscar, which would spell disaster for our hand, considering that all of our ramp is right now on the deck. And another land. We will go ahead and pass the turn. This will be good, though. It'll allow us to look into our library and pull out a bomb. Now they're going to have to wipe the board here unless they want us to knock the Avabruck down on this turn. Do they do it? Not sure what else they could have foretold, being honest. With white, it only really makes sense to have foretold a Doomscar. Opponent contemplating. They are debating, do they get rid of their Adeline, or do they let this stand and potentially face down an Avabruck for a turn? They are electing to swing in. It's a good combination having the Lunarch Veteran with an Adeline. Since we're likely to end up losing everything anyway, we might as well take our blocks. We already have the card we want in hand and the mana to cast it next turn if we draw into any mana. Here comes Doomscar. Oh, and what did I say? There goes the board, but we may already have done the damage we need to do. Oh, no, there's another one. Okay, well, we don't have anything to play, so we're going to have to wait. While it was a good opening hand giving us the amount of ramp it did, we are now struggling as we need mana, and mana is not something this deck is built to effectively gain access to. Still struggling to figure out what they're doing with green. Oh, this is a humans build. Okay, I see you. Might as well get rid of the vigilance. The Hamlet Vanguard is a scary card to play against. I forget that it's only 3 mana. I do have a playset of them somewhere. We're going to have to take a hit for 5 here. And we're on the board. Let's see if they elect to use that board wipe. They'll probably attack in with everything, and that'll be our indicator. With a Jaspera Sentinel on deck, it is... Alright. I think we're going to see that Doomscar coming down. They don't want to have that Avabruck sitting. Just in case I'm misreading the situation, though, we won't let them go any further. And... interesting. Was not expecting that. We now have a blocker big enough for the Vanguard. And reach on the board for the Flying Phantom. What could they possibly have? Either way, this will be a swing for broke. Or not. Very conservative. If they let this go to nighttime, that's going to be a huge mistake on their part. And once again, we know what's coming. Doomscar is about to wipe the field. And Doomscar. That is a shame. And now we draw into nothing but our mana. And we're at nighttime. That would have been nice a minute ago. Do we draw Reach? So far, no good. Would be nice to get one of our Master Symmetrists down. And with a Luminarch Aspirant on the board, it is going to be even more difficult for us to get ahead here. And the flood is happening. Where are those little popcorn-loving fools from Halo when you need them? Well, folks, interesting deck we played against there. I hadn't seen a Selesnya Humans up to this point, but I see a way that it could work. Good game to our opponent. We'll see you in the next one. And we have an opponent. Fireball. This is a good starting hand. Not quite everything we want, but enough to keep us interested. And with that land draw, we are even more interested than ever. It will allow us to play down the Master Symmetrist potentially here with the Vigilance counter on it on top of the Trample and Reach. It gives itself Trample naturally as is, but this is a big deal for us. Opponent looks like they are going a snow-based Spirits deck. Ooh, and now with this ramp continuing to get even nicer, we are in good shape here. Symmetrist will hold them back for a turn or so. 4 mana available in between hand and on the board already, up to 5. One more ramp card or another mana draw, and we can get down the Avabruck and the Vorinclex. Vorinclex is scary with the Avabruck as it doubles up those counters, so we are excited to see what happens with that. Alright, opponent has elected not to pump the Spirit. Could end up being a mistake on their part. Oof. And this is exactly what we hope for. Unless they have a way to wipe the board, this next turn is going to be terrifying for them. They need to play something. For me to have that option, though. They drop mana. Do they play a card? The bounce spell would be devastating. Quandrix Cultivator. Uh-oh, folks. This is not good for them. They don't yet know what's about to happen, but the Avabruck is coming down first, so I can untap the Howlpack Piper, followed by this Vorinclex, and then we are swinging home with monstrous potential. Alright. Come on down. Do they have a bounce spell? This is a weird priority hold. They might elect to bounce once I get the first card on the board. But with the Avabruck coming down, it will flip to nighttime if I don't cast anything, and that will set this game into a whole new phase of nasty. We'll go ahead and bring the Vorinclex down. And now the opponent gets the full weight of what they're dealing with. Let's see if we draw out that Fading Hope. 2 counters becomes 4. Vorinclex in for the swing. Opponent deciding what they're going to do. I fully expect to see a Fading Hope here. That's been a lot of priority hold for 1 mana. Oh, they take it. And that will be a mistake, because with the nighttime flip, we are hexproof. All of their counters go out the window. They don't have anything big enough to block here. They would have to have a board wipe for them to have any chance. Let's see if we get through to the attack phase. We're not even going to play a card at this point. No, we don't. The opponent can't handle the heat. Vorinclex is demoralizing, especially when you pair it with a counter engine. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you in the next one. We have our next opponent, and this hand is not a keep. This hand is a keep. I'm not even sure what I want to drop here, as everything is incredibly enticing. We're going to go ahead and drop the Tenacious Pup. As much as I hate to lose that bad boy, it only makes sense that we should be playing into our cheat strategy. Opponent with blue sleeves. That's a cool looking sleeve. Just have to wait on them to make a decision. Evolving Wilds. This could be a mill deck. Evolving Wilds tends to be a hallmark of mill decks and pairs very nicely with the Ruin Crab. Now this is how you get rewarded for making sacrifices. Reclusive Taxiderm is coming down. The Tenacious Pup is now available, and if we can use that to bring the Howlpack Piper down, we'll be in really good shape. Opponent showing Izzet colors. So once again, my suspicions are high that this is a mill deck. Go ahead and play the uncounterable. I do suspect that it will get bounced, but we shall see. There's the Fading Hope. If they have more bounce spells, they may elect on this turn to bounce the Reclusive Taxidermist back to hand. Expressive Iteration, so opponent is struggling here. They've put another Evolving Wilds into the exile zone. Still not entirely certain what it is they're going for. There's a land, and that is a Mercy. Go ahead and play down the Tenacious Pup on this turn, and now we will try and cheat onto the battlefield. Howlpack Piper does evade Divide by Zeros with the cheat. They cannot bounce those cards back to hand, and if I get the Avabruck down, this will be dangerous for our opponent. They could potentially, though, work their way up into a Burn Down the House, and that would be devastating for what we're trying to accomplish. There's the Divide by Zero. And I fully expect there's the Environmental Sciences. But it doesn't matter, folks. We got what we wanted. A big Avabruck Caretaker, and we're going to go ahead and swing this Tenacious Pup in for 3. Oh, I love it when ramp comes together. Now the question is, do we see Burn Down the House? You can't bounce it. You have to kill it. They have the Burn Down the House mana. Environmental Sciences, they are giving us a chance. And a Foretell. Go ahead and put the Piper down one more time. And why not? Probably should have held on to the Howlpack Piper, but when you can swing in for 10, swing in for 10. Here comes Burn Down the House. I say that, of course, just expecting the worst to happen. The worst may not actually happen here. There's the Dual Strike. Here comes the Tasha's. Uh-oh. That's going to be big. Is it enough, though? It could be, but I have a number of big mana cards in there. They only got 12. Oh, I think we got it, folks. I think we're fine. We have survived the mill out. The opponent can't take it, and they will now have to go home and wallow in their shame. They tried to hit with the triple Tashas off the Dual Striked Galvanic, and they suffered for it. That is why you build big bombs into a deck. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you in the next one. We have another opponent. And this is an interesting hand. We're going to hope we draw into a third land or another ramp spell, and we're going to go ahead and take a risky keep. But we have a number of key pieces that I do like to see. I am worried, though, now looking at the opponent's sleeves that we could be facing down dragons, and that would be devastating. The dragons do have the ability to get around us here. Go ahead and play down the Tenacious Pup while we can. Keep the hand somewhat clear. And with the Tenacious Pup, we actually can play down on the next turn the Weaver of Blossoms, which will help us with our ramp. There's the Temple of the Dragon Queen and the Fearsome Whelp revealed. We are now on a clock, folks. And the Weaver of Blossoms hits the deck. Let's see if they elect to go for removal here. This is the kind of Dragons deck I expected to see. Boros has been a very popular Dragons build as of late. Alright, and with that land, we can now get the Howlpack Piper down to the board. And start swinging. The auto-tapper in this case was foolish. I'm a little sad that it tapped down the Weaver of Blossoms, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Alright, there is the Nadar. Not surprised to see that. They will be surprised in a moment, though, if they don't land a big body. Moonveil Regent, that won't be enough. And another Fearsome Whelp. Good for them. They elect to drop a Chandra. They decided to use the Moonveil Regent to reset their hand. 3 Fearsome Whelps. That is intimidating, to say the least. Alright, with that, we're going to go ahead and tap down the Tenacious Pup. Bring down the Vorinclex. And swing for the face. Opponent takes it. Let's see what we can draw into. Dragon's Fire on the Windsong. Still get our card, though, and that is a big pickup. With the Blossom-clad Werewolf now sitting on the night side, we're going to get a 2-mana draw. If they don't have anything, this is going to be a really bad day for them. Alright, folks, that might be it. Oh, that's going to be it for them. There's not going to be any way for them to comfortably recover here, as the entire field gets the pump and we swing for home. That is massive. Oh, and you love to see it. We're going to win one for the home team here, folks. Coming in big. Let's take one more look at the amount of counters that just slammed home. Howlhenge Huntmaster dropping +2 counters with an additional doubled up counter count because of the Vorinclex. Everything got 4 counters. Our Tenacious Pup went to 5-6 if I'm not mistaken. Yep, Jaspera Sentinel 5-6. The Blossom-clad Werewolf, which got the Howlhenge down onto the battlefield, became an 8-9. And that Vorinclex, a solid 10-10 body that just swung home in such a satisfying way. You can try and sneak those dragons through, but we're gonna make you look silly. Alright, and welcome back. That was a fun series of matches. A little bit of difficulty at one point or two. I'm not going to lie, one of the videos that isn't going to make the cut was a loss to an Orzhov dungeon delving deck, and while we were off to a solid start, the dungeon delving mechanic and the tediousness of it, I just kind of threw my hands up, pulled out my phone, and just hung out for a minute while they did their thing and decided this wasn't worth putting up. It did end up getting the better of us as they had the pieces they needed while I struggled to find the ones that I needed to swing home. Flooded out for a little while and they took it out. But this deck performed better than I expected it to. I'm not going to lie, I kind of expected this to be a little bit more bordering on the jank side of strategy and didn't expect us to pull out as many wins as we did. Very happy to get the performance we got. Really, really fun combination when you have the Vorinclex on board and the Ava Bruck Caretaker to pair with it. Howlpack Piper ended up giving me a lot more love on the Wildsong Howler part than I expected. Not a card that I usually like to have on the night side, but when it hit the nightbound side, it actually ended up helping out when we had the right ramp creatures on board or the mana state we were at to just give us the pieces we wanted to have and put them in a position to do some good for us. Overall, this deck was a blast to play. Each of the different ramp spell and ramp creature cards really came into play in their own way and gave us an effective path to get to our bigger cards and our bigger strategy towards the end of the games. It's a fun game and it's a fun deck to play. Definitely worth taking a look at if you're looking at any kind of aggro deck. If you have the pieces, give it a shot. It's a good time. We'll show you the stats here real quick, brought to you by untapped.gg. And what we're looking at here is a fully maximized screen, not the intent there. We're looking at 3-2 overall. Again, 0-1 against Orzhov, and the other one is the Selesnya Humans deck you'll see at the beginning of this video. Again, I really can't complain. Beat up on Boros Dragons, beat up on Izzet Mill, and beat up on a little bit of a Simic strategy there. So, at the end of the day, if you're looking for some fun, this is a fun way to get yourself a few wins and have a good time on the path. Until the next time, though, this is Furion from the Florida Men Gaming, signing off.